Hi, and welcome to English-Fabule. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
Sigmund Freud was a medical doctor from Vienna, Austria. He was born a long time ago in 1856. At that time, most people thought that humans were mostly rational. This means they believed people used their minds to make clear, logical choices and had full control over themselves. Society valued logic and conscious thought above all else. But Freud dared to think differently. He believed there were powerful forces inside us that we could not always control, hidden deep within our minds. These unseen forces, he said, shaped our thoughts, feelings, and actions in ways we didn't even know. This idea was very new and shocking for his time. It meant that perhaps we were not as in charge of ourselves as we liked to believe. Freud's ideas changed everything. How did one doctor from Vienna make such a big difference in how the whole world understands itself? He started a dramatic journey into the human mind, a place no one had truly explored or mapped before. His work made us look at ourselves and others in a completely new way. Today, his influence is vast. You can see his ideas everywhere, in movies, books, and everyday language, even if people don't know where they came from. For example, if someone makes a small mistake when speaking and accidentally says something they did not mean, people often call it a Freudian slip. If a friend refuses to see a clear problem or accept a hard truth, you might say they are in denial. He spoke about the unconscious mind, which he described as a secret, powerful part of our brain that holds many hidden desires, forgotten memories, and unresolved conflicts. He also talked about how our earliest experiences, especially in childhood, shape who we become as adults. His theories made people question if they truly understood their own motivations and why they did the things they did. This was a groundbreaking way to think about human nature. However, Freud's methods and ideas were also full of arguments and strong disagreements. Many people, including other doctors and scientists, did not agree with him. Some called him a scientific genius who opened new paths for understanding human suffering and development. They saw him as a pioneer. Others thought he was simply lost in his own wild imagination, making up theories without solid scientific proof. His work led to many new ideas that shaped psychology, but it also sparked many intense debates that continue even today. He challenged society's long-held assumptions about what it means to be human, to reason, and to control oneself. He taught us that there is much more to us than what we see and understand on the surface. But were his methods truly scientific, or was he a man who imagined too much? His story is complex, full of insight and controversy. We will now explore his life and the dramatic impact he had on the world. 2. A boy in a big city. Sigmund Freud was born on May 6, 1856, in Freiburg, a small town in Moravia. Today, this place is called Pibor in the Czech Republic. His family were Jewish wool merchants, and they did not have much money. At that time, many people still held old religious beliefs, but new scientific ideas, like Charles Darwin's book published 3 years earlier, were beginning to change society. Jewish families in the Austro-Hungarian Empire were also starting to gain more freedom. Freud's father, Jacob, had moved away from very strict Jewish traditions, but he was known for studying holy texts. His mother, Amalia, was 20 years younger than Jacob. She deeply believed in her eldest son. She called him "my golden Siggy" and gave him a lot of love and attention. This care, Freud would later say, helped him build confidence for his whole life. From a young age, it was clear Sigmund was a very bright student. He passed his final exams with high marks. His family saw his special scientific genius early on. They let him have his own room for studying, while his brothers and sisters shared theirs. His sister Anna was even told not to play the piano when Sigmund was studying. This shows how much his family hoped for him. When Freud was 4 years old, his family moved to Vienna. This was a big city, the capital of a large empire. Many different ideas came together there in coffee houses and universities. But Vienna also had problems with anti-Semitism, where Jewish families faced discrimination even as they found new jobs. This feeling of being both part of and outside society quietly shaped Freud. In 1873, at 17, Freud started studying medicine at the University of Vienna. He had thought about becoming a lawyer, but the allure of science was too strong for him to ignore. He did not go to medical school because he wanted to treat sick people. Instead, he was fascinated by the idea of being a scientist who searched for truth. He cared more about new ideas than about helping patients. For him, medicine was just a tool to explore the human mind. Freud became a rigorous laboratory scientist. For many years, he studied neurology, anatomy, and how the nervous system worked. He spent much time looking through microscopes at the brain and nerves. He thought he would spend his life doing this work. But in 1885, he got money to visit a famous doctor named Jean-Martin Charcot in Paris, France. What he saw there was completely new. Charcot was using hypnosis to treat people with hysteria. These patients had physical problems like paralysis, but no one could find a problem with their bodies. Charcot showed that mental states, not just physical issues, could cause these symptoms. This was a big challenge to traditional medical thinking, and it made Freud look at the mind in a new way. 3. The talking cure. Freud traveled to Paris in 1885 for an important internship, a period that would change his life's work. He visited a famous hospital, Salpêtrière, where he observed Dr. Jean-Martin Charcot, a leading neurologist. Charcot was doing something quite revolutionary. He demonstrated that patients suffering from hysteria, a condition characterized by physical problems like paralysis, tremors, or blindness, but with no clear bodily cause, could be helped by hypnosis. This meant that the mind could, surprisingly, create physical sickness, and that mental states, not just physical nerves, were very important for a person's health. For Freud, who had spent years studying the brain and its biological structures, this was a huge revelation. This experience changed Freud's direction entirely. He realized that if the mind could cause such strong physical symptoms, then understanding the mind itself was key to healing them. He began to shift his focus from purely biological studies to the newly developing field of psychology. Back in Vienna, he started to experiment with hypnosis himself, often collaborating with an older, respected doctor named Joseph Breuer. Breuer's work with a particular patient, known by the pseudonym Anna O, became a crucial turning point. Anna O had many complex and puzzling symptoms.
When she spoke about the origins of her symptoms while in a hypnotic state, she found great relief. She famously called this process the talking cure.
She discovered a strange and important connection. Painful, forgotten memories were deeply linked to her current physical sickness. As she remembered and talked about these traumatic past events, the severity of her symptoms lessened. This showed Freud that simply speaking out loud about hidden past experiences could lead to profound healing. However, Freud eventually decided to stop using hypnosis. He found its effects were not consistent or reliable, meaning it didn't work the same way for all patients or every time. The powerful insights from Anna O's treatment, however, gave him a new, more promising idea. He started to ask his patients to simply talk freely, without any censorship, self-judgment, or stopping. This new method was called free association. Instead of putting patients into a trance, he encouraged them to follow their thoughts wherever they led, no matter how strange, embarrassing, or unimportant they seemed. This significant change from using hypnosis to simply allowing open conversation was more than just a different technique. It showed a completely new way to look at the human mind. Freud believed that by allowing patients to talk without interruption, he could uncover hidden material buried deep below their conscious awareness. He was about to open a door into a dark and powerful inner place no one had ever truly mapped before, a secret world full of unspoken desires, hidden conflicts, and forgotten truths.
The hidden mind. Sigmund Freud now looked deeply into the human mind. He began to speak about the unconscious mind. This was a vast, hidden place with forgotten memories, forbidden desires, and old problems. Freud believed these hidden parts of our mind had a very strong effect on everything we do, say, and even our dreams. We are often not aware of these forces, but they are constantly working, guiding our choices and feelings. He suggested that much of what we experience daily comes from these powerful, unseen drives that we cannot directly observe. To make sense of how our mental life works, Freud created one of his most famous models. He said that human personality is made of three interacting parts: the id, the ego, and the superego. The id is the most basic part, full of impulsive needs and desires. It wants immediate pleasure and does not care about rules or what is right. For example, it wants food when hungry, immediately. Then there is the superego. This part grows as we learn from our parents and society. It holds all the moral rules and ideals. It is our inner voice that tells us what is good or bad, and it tries to make us act in a socially acceptable way. Often, it tries to stop the id's wild desires. The ego is the realistic part. Its main job is to find a balance. It must deal with the id's wishes, the superego's rules, and the actual world around us. Freud used a simple picture to explain this. The ego is like a rider on a horse.
The strong horse, the id, wants to run where it pleases. The rider, the ego, must guide the horse, working with its energy, but also following the rules of the road, the superego. This idea was very radical for people at that time. Before Freud, many thought humans were rational beings, fully in charge of their choices. Freud's work showed a different picture. Humans are constantly managing hidden forces. If we are not fully in control of our own choices, then what unseen forces are truly driving us? This question deeply changed how people saw themselves. Freud also explained his ideas in a groundbreaking book called The Interpretation of Dreams, published in 1899. He argued that dreams are not just random pictures or stories we see when we sleep. Instead, they are very meaningful messages from our unconscious mind. Dreams, he said, are the royal road to the unconscious. They offer a special path into the hidden parts of our mind, especially when our usual waking guard is relaxed during sleep. They reveal our deepest wishes and fears. Freud felt he had finally discovered the map to the human soul and understood the true reasons behind our actions. However, sharing these powerful and secret truths with the world would soon put him at the center of a massive storm, as many people found his ideas difficult to accept. 5. Friends and enemies. Freud's groundbreaking ideas about the hidden mind quickly found supporters. In the early 1900s, a small group of colleagues began meeting in his Vienna apartment. They called themselves the Wednesday Society. Here they talked about patient cases, discussed theories, and worked to spread the ideas of psychoanalysis. By 1908, this small group became the Vienna Psychoanalytic Society. Just 2 years later, in 1910, the International Psychoanalytic Association was formed. This marked the start of Freud's influence reaching around the world. Among the people drawn to Freud's group was a clever young Swiss doctor named Carl Gustav Jung. Freud admired Jung greatly. He saw Jung as his successor, someone who could carry his work far beyond Vienna. For a time, their friendship was very strong, and they shared a common goal: to understand the human mind in new ways. Freud even called Jung his crown prince. However, their shared vision did not last. Freud and Jung began to have different ideas about human nature and the mind. Freud believed that the unconscious mind was mainly a place for repressed desires, and that sexual energy was the most important driver of human behavior. Jung, on the other hand, thought the unconscious was much broader. He believed it was also a source of creativity and spiritual depth. Jung introduced the idea of a collective unconscious, a deeper part of the mind that everyone shares, filled with universal images he called archetypes. These differences led to strong disagreements. The personal side of their relationship also became difficult. Freud, being older and more famous, often acted like a father to Jung. Jung eventually found this stifling. Around 1920, these differences led to strong disagreements. The personal side of their relationship also became difficult. Freud, being older and more famous, often acted like a father to Jung. Jung eventually found this stifling. Around 1912 to 1913, their friendship broke apart completely. The split was bitter, and they never became friends again. This rupture led to two different paths in understanding the mind. Other colleagues, like Alfred Adler, also left to start their own schools of thought. Freud found it hard to accept ideas that challenged his main theories. Even as these internal arguments grew, Freud's ideas began to travel. In 1909, he went to the United States for the only time, invited by Clark University in Massachusetts. He gave 5 lectures there, and many people were interested. This trip helped his ideas become known around the world, planting the seeds for a strong psychoanalytic tradition in America. But with arguments threatening his movement from the inside, his life's work faced serious danger. 6. Society and sadness. After looking deeply into the minds of individuals, Freud began to look at the whole world.
He wanted to understand why people acted the way they did in groups and societies. He wrote about big ideas like culture, religion, and the struggles of living in a civilized world. Freud thought religion was like a neurosis for many people. He believed it was a way for adults to wish for a powerful father figure, like children do. For Freud, religion offered comfort, but also helped people hide from real problems, like a collective illusion. His most famous book on society was Civilization and Its Discontents. In this book, Freud argued that living in an organized society is a difficult trade-off. Humans have strong natural desires, like wanting to do whatever they please or being aggressive. But to live together in peace, people must suppress these natural instincts and follow many rules. This act of holding back our desires creates a deep shared unhappiness. Freud called this widespread feeling a permanent discontent. We get safety from society, but we lose some personal freedom. The rules often make us feel guilty if we think about breaking them. This guilt stays hidden, showing up as worry or unease. This was Freud's philosophical view. There is an ongoing battle inside each person. It is a fight between what we naturally want and what society tells us to do. This fight creates anxiety and inner conflict that society cannot fully fix. He suggested that the safety of modern life might actually be what makes us all so worried. Freud wrote these ideas at a very troubled time, after one big world war and just before another was starting. He warned the world about the destructive forces hiding in human nature. Sadly, as he shared his dark thoughts about society, a real-life monster was gaining terrible power in Europe. 7. Running from danger. Sigmund Freud was an old man in the 1930s, and he was also very sick. Since 1923, he had cancer in his mouth. He had endured many surgeries, more than 30 in total. He used a special mouth prosthesis to help him speak and eat, but it was often painful and hard to use. Even with his illness, he continued to see patients and write books. Outside Vienna, the Nazi Party was growing strong. In May 1933, Nazis burned Freud's books in Germany. His sons, Oliver and Ernst, decided it was time to leave Berlin where they lived. But Freud was compulsive about staying in Vienna. He showed great defiance against the danger, saying he would stay until the very end. Then, in March 1938, a terrible thing happened. Hitler's Germany took control of Austria. This was called the annexation. Austrian Jews were now in great danger. Soon, Freud's apartment was searched, and his publishing house was raided. On March 22, Freud wrote 2 words in his diary, Anna by Gestapo, meaning Anna with Gestapo. His youngest daughter, Anna, who helped him greatly with his work and care, had been arrested by the Nazi secret police. Anna was let go later that same day, but the event broke Freud's strong will to stay.
A special coalition of friends and important people quickly started working to save him. This group included a Welsh doctor, Napoleon's great-grandniece, and an American ambassador. They had to persuade him to leave his beloved Vienna and move to England. On June 4, 1938, Freud and his immediate family and household left Vienna by train. They traveled on the Orient Express. There were tense moments when the train crossed the border into France. After a short stop in Paris at the home of Marie Bonaparte, who helped pay for their escape, they crossed the Channel to England. London welcomed Freud with great warmth. People knew his name and his house number, and letters came addressed only to Dr. Freud, London. He settled with his family in a new home in Hampstead. However, not all of his family was so fortunate. His 4 older sisters, who did not have his famous connections, stayed in Vienna. They later died in concentration camps. Freud had survived the dangerous journey to England, but his long, quiet battle with cancer was about to reach its final end. 8. What he left behind. Sigmund Freud died on September 23, 1939. He suffered from throat cancer, a painful illness likely made worse by his lifelong habit of smoking cigars. His doctor, Max Schur, kept a promise to Freud, helping him pass away peacefully with medicine. Freud left a huge legacy, but his work continues to be debated and discussed around the world.
Modern science has looked closely at Freud's ideas over many decades. Many of his theories did not pass scientific scrutiny. For instance, there is no real scientific proof for his specific model of the mind, with the id, ego, and superego acting as separate parts. Also, some of his ideas, such as penis envy or his views on homosexuality, are now seen as reflecting the common social beliefs of his time, rather than objective scientific truths. A famous philosopher of science, Karl Popper, even argued that Freud's theories were hard to test or prove wrong. He called this unfalsifiability. If a patient got better, it showed the therapy worked. If they did not, Freud might say they were resisting the treatment. This made it difficult to challenge the theories with clear evidence. Despite these issues, Freud's influence is still very strong and widespread. He made people understand that much of our mental life happens without us being aware of it. This groundbreaking idea of the unconscious mind is now widely accepted in psychology. Also, his ideas about defense mechanisms, like denying problems, pushing bad memories away, or using humor to cope, are still used to explain human behavior today. The talking cure itself, where people speak openly about their feelings and thoughts to a therapist, completely changed how we approach mental health.
Many modern therapies, including popular ones like cognitive behavioral therapy, owe a debt to his foundational idea that conversation can be therapeutic. Freud's thoughts have permeated deeply into culture. We use his words and concepts every day, often without even knowing it, like when we talk about a Freudian slip or describe someone as being in denial. His ideas shaped literature, encouraging writers like James Joyce and Virginia Woolf to explore characters' inner thoughts and emotions in new ways. Films, too, frequently show themes of hidden desires, past traumas, or forgotten memories, echoing Freud's work. Even the common image of a patient lying on a couch, talking freely to a therapist, comes directly from the setting Freud created in his consulting room. Freud's greatest contribution was perhaps his courage to ask difficult questions about the human condition. He dared to challenge our simple ideas about reason and self-control, showing that we are often driven by forces we do not fully understand. He wanted to make people think deeply and upset old prejudices. He did not fully solve the perplexing mystery of the mind. This complex search continues even today, but the path he started will never end. His work opened the door for all of us to keep looking within ourselves,
pushing us to understand the hidden parts of our inner lives. What do you think is Freud's most important idea for today's world?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.